critical ops. I left them 2015 to join Data Realms. They've done incredibly well. I'm happy to see that the painstaking effort I put in there saved them. They got $4 million in funding this year, and they're top studio in Finland right now, so it's great. Before that I was at Get Social. I helped set up a game studio in Thailand called Arcavis, and I started out as a game journalist actually back in the day. So I've written for Tech in Asia, Pocket Gamer, and you name it. So, partners and clients, this is like what I've worked with in the past, or I'm working with now. Mainly Data Realms right now has my most attention. And let's go into the stuff. So, some of my personal lessons and mistakes have to do with agreements and responsibilities, adversity hitting you in the face, and the reality of running a business, which you could never underestimate enough. Constant growth and getting outside perspective, which is super important when you're in the trenches working your ass off, and really learning to take the punches. So, I moved to Finland in 2014, and I think that was one of the most impactful experiences that I've had in my life, next to moving to Southeast Asia 2 years before that, because of the culture there. There's a culture without shame, also partly based on their sauna culture, where you just sit together with your friends naked in the same little sauna, butts cheeks, touching butt cheeks, and bearing nothing and drinking a beer together. And I think that this picture also resembles the way that community is shaped. It's one of my favorite communities in the world. And it's also really strongly based on mutual trust. The amount of information shared is amazing. Every month there's some game company that has a failed project and releases all of their information in a private gathering like we're having right now to their fellow developers in terms of analytics, KPIs, failures, whatnot. It's insane. Best talks I've ever seen were by Finnish developers who are just like, this is my game, this is what failed, we made a horrible mistake, but at least we have to share the failure with you. Right? That's how usually the talks start there. They also have a monthly IGDA gathering. I'm going to tell you right now, it's great if you ever find yourself in Europe. It's I think on the first or second Tuesday of every month. So if you're in Helsinki, that's a great extra excuse to just go there, and there's just hundreds of Finnish developers from all the top companies that go there to socialize with each other. I've also spent quite some time in Sweden. I actually lived there for a couple of months back in 2015, also mainly because of a great initiative called Stugan. Stugan is an initiative started by Tommy Palm, the guru behind Candy Crush. And, I'm actually being filmed after all. Oh, now I have to be careful. Where's that going? Is that going somewhere, or where were you putting that?
On YouTube.
Oh, seriously? Oh, god damn it, now I can't. All right, so you're gonna have to promise me you're gonna send me the video so I can edit out all the F words before you put it online, because then it's cool. Okay.
Yep.
All right, great. So then I can just continue. So the cool thing about Stugan is that it allows small indie developers in groups of 1 to 2 people or 3 people if you're a small indie studio to go to Sweden for 2 months in a cottage in the middle of nowhere in Sweden and work on your game. And it's been great. They've attracted speakers from all over the world, mentors. There's something really cool about Sweden in terms of their culture. We've discussed it with a couple of guys from the game industry, and we've come to call it commercial pragmatism, which is just this understanding that you have to cater to a global audience. You have to embrace the fact that your own market is not small enough to financially sustain your business, and hence you have to think and understand what is going on around you and what's going on in the bigger market, mainstream market, which has resulted in some of the biggest successes, successful video games in our time coming from Sweden. Payday being one of the examples by Starbreeze, Goat Simulator. City Skyline is a great example of a collaboration, right? So Colossal Order is a Finnish game studio. Paradox is a Swedish publisher, and we all know what kind of success City Skylines has experienced. So one of the cool other things that I've noticed, this is both in Sweden and Finland, is their legacy. There's a legacy going on that goes back 30, 40 years ago, based on what is known as the demo scene. This is a great exemplary picture of what you can expect the demo scene was back in the day when we were all put our CRT monitors into our cars and drive somewhere else to play and make games with other people, right? So this is like 1980, 1990. Back then, this community of young kids working with computers were just always looking at how to optimize something, how to make something cooler fit in 64K. And that was always more important than anything else. So right now, that kind of mentality about optimizing your code, having your proprietary tech, all of that kind of stuff is what's dominating the Finnish game industry and why their games run so smoothly, why Apple loves to come to Finland and hug these people and stuff like that. There's a great documentary about the demo scene and how that's kind of laid the foundation for the game industry in this region. So this is kind of like a first big one that I wanted to share with you guys, which is when you are building a startup, you always have to have like a slide with your team, you know, in your pitch deck, when you present to investors, blah, blah, blah. Those things are designed. Teams are, in Finland especially, I feel like they really nitpick people, like they pick people together to kind of make this starstruck team to impress investors. It's something that you design. There's very few opportunities where you can just take your college friends that you've graduated with, put them in the deck and hope that, you know, that will impress an investor. That usually means that you will then have to rely on your product and on your track record and your rep sheet with your team, right? But, you know, when you look at an average pitch deck in Finland from a new game startup that's trying to raise millions of dollars, it's like, oh, this guy has 10 years at Rovio, this guy has 10 years at Supercell. Not that they exist for 10 years, but you know what I mean? So it's really, you know, built, and the way you guys can leverage that, because none of you I don't think has worked at Supercell yet, is by really finding the right people and dividing the right responsibilities among each other to also make sure that your business is as stable as possible. Guy Kawasaki has this awesome book, Art at the Start. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. You know, this is a quick quote from him, like, you know, you in a startup, you technically you only need like 3 people. You have 3 main roles. You know, someone who can make something, someone who can sell it, and someone who can collect the money. And once you divide those 3 roles, preferably among multiple people, not among one person, because that person's going to burn out, I think you're pretty good. So it also requires, like, you know, if you're going into that whole startup thing, the first thing that I kind of stumbled into, having been an indie developer before, is really understanding how you have to take on a different attitude and really also adapt a different vocabulary. So I'm just going to do a little quick test here. So who has ever used the term sustainable traction in a conversation? Raise your hand. Oh boy. Cash flow positive. Okay. Shareholders and or revenue share agreement. Okay, I'm really wondering how you guys are working together. Business plan. Okay, that's the start. Go-to-market strategy. Good. Product market fit. Excellent. So, in case you haven't, these are a few books that I can recommend to look into. Venture Deals is one of my favorites, especially if you're chasing funding. It's just this giant bomb of knowledge that I never thought I would ever be able to receive just in one book. Very nice. The other thing is like being a bit more formal about your agreements. So I personally always say have everything written down. Every time you have a proper important meeting where you make agreements either internally or externally, have minutes. Have someone take that lousy job of writing down notes about that meeting. Same thing with emails and contracts. You can never be clear enough. Always confirm stuff. Use team communication platforms such as Slack. Personally, I've stopped using Slack. I've started using Discord. Who knows Discord? Yeah, exactly. So Discord is free, and it's, I think, personally much better than Slack nowadays, and it doesn't cost money. Licenses, both towards your consumers. There's a very nice website called TLDR Legal, where all these things are explained in simple terms. I personally love watching lawyer shows, because even though they teach you nothing about actual law, they do kind of give you an insight on how you should think about these things. And there's an awesome talk by Dimitri Dubrograyev. It's a bit old, like 2 years old, 3 years old, but it's got timeless information about how to interact with a lawyer and what to expect from them. Which brings me to the next point. It's really important to have someone with legal insight or general counsel on your side. It's become kind of a trend, especially in Finland, to actually have a lawyer on board in your startup, either for equity or for revenue share or whatnot. Advisors, same thing, like either officially or unofficially. It's great to surround yourself with people who have a bit more insight than yourself and actively having monthly talks with them or whatnot. There's an awesome book about the basics on business and legal issues for video game developers called Mastering the Game. It's actually a free PDF. You can download it right now if you want. And it's great. It's one of my favorite books to share with people because it just gives you that instant basic understanding of what's going on and what you have to be prepared for. So, contracts, one of my favorite topics. I actually hated contracts before, and now I love them because they're like such a little, it's kind of like a game to understand how they work. For me, I think Christopher Natsumi from Boom's app had like an excellent presentation a few years ago that still till today is super valuable, where he kind of like explains why we need those in the first place. And the best, simplest terms is they're designed against assholes. And then you have to understand, it's not who is the bad guy. It's that in a situation where a conflict arises, both of you consider each other bad guys. And when then things are written down, the answer's already there. You never have to go into complicated discussions or disagreements or whatnot. So just be a dick. And always just don't accept verbal agreements. Always make sure to follow up or confirm with an email, in a written form. Just avoid misunderstandings. Never assume anything. Oh, I'm sorry, but I assumed we had that cleared. No. There's a reason why American contracts are like this big when you try to close a deal, right? Like Finnish law kind of like protects companies to a certain degree and employees as well, where the contract just needs to be like this big, but still, I'm not sure what the situation here in the Philippines is. Never stop learning. For some reason, I just changed this, but it's still there. Who knows the How to Start a Startup YouTube channel by Stanford University? Okay, so I'm not surprised. This screenshot I've been using quite a lot since 2014 is somewhere dated in May 2014. As you can see, the first episode was watched about 293,000 times, which back then I was already surprised. Officially 3 years now, the amount has only doubled, so the views are only 600,000, which still surprises me with the amount of people that are entering the game industry, like yourselves, trying to start a company. You can find the link over there, but if you type in how to start a startup, the free course with, I think, 25 episodes will pop up right away. So, try to also learn with comic relief. So I'm guessing some of you guys have seen Silicon Valley, the HBO show? Yeah, very good. So, funny enough, even though this is supposed to be like some kind of like comedy about what lives, which features a project where Nicolas Cage was supposed to be Superman, which is pretty cool. And one of my favorites, all-time favorite documentaries, Jodorowsky's Dune, about the best movie that was never made. Highly recommended, because Jodorowsky's Dune actually also shows the legacy of some of our favorite science fiction movies of all time and how those were kind of built upon on the corpse of Jodorowsky's Dune. So yeah, try to squeeze in some work-life balance in there while you're at it, you know. So another thing that has helped me a lot is embracing Stoicism. It's a Greek, philosophy/lifestyle that pretty much comes down to the principle of whatever happens to you, just live with it, right? Like stuff will happen, adversity will hit you. It's really about how you respond to it, right? Like in the words of Epictetus here, happiness and freedom begin with a clear understanding of one principle. Some things are within your control, others are not. The moment you accept that, you'll have a much easier life. Tim Ferriss recently started picking up Stoicism and wrote a couple of very understandable blogs about how he translates that for entrepreneurs, so I don't need to go into that. He already did the work for me. So this is an important one, especially since we're in a quite interesting community here in the Philippines. I still have to yet do a lot more research on what your heritage is and how your industry has come to grow to the size it is now. But I'm sure that there are some veterans out there already that I, for example, already met yesterday, and advisors that have been through hardship, that have been through the struggle of starting a business. I think one of the most recent examples is of course, Gabby Dizon from Altitude himself, who has played a big role in getting us all together here in the first place, right? Pain is a relative thing, and I think that surrounding yourself with people that are at least 5 years older than you and trying to make sure that the average age in your startup is slightly higher because you are not afraid to hire someone who knows more than you, and you can set aside your ego, is a good thing. As this image represents, they can take a bigger punch than you can. It's really good to have that necessary perspective, much needed perspective in what you're doing. Proprietary tech still matters. So even though Unity is super prevalent, Unreal is doing pretty well as well, and they're starting to both run pretty decently on mobile. Having proprietary tech is still something that can really give you an edge. In the way you talk with publishers, platforms, and our potential partners, with investors as well. I mean, the platforms love you if you can do something that's completely optimized to their systems, right? You can have unique looks and feels as a result. Like you just saw the trailer from Planetary Pioneers. That's an engine we built from scratch, 2D physics-based engine over the last 8 years. It runs on mobile. It runs on anything. That kind of customization is super important nowadays. Not to say that you can't make a cool game with Unity. I'm not going to say but it just gives you an advantage in negotiations and everything. And of course, you always have that potential commercialization, where you can make your own plugins on the Unity App Store or whatnot. So another thing which I'm super happy to see is being adopted more and more is virtual teams that just have people work at home in their underwear, sometimes forgetting Skype is still on when they get up. It happens. But office space is expensive. It has always been expensive. It'll always be expensive. Coming together, especially in a city like Manila, God forbid how tough it is for you guys to get in the same room. It might just take you 2 days to have a 1-hour meeting. And so I'm a big fan of co-working spaces, but I'm also just more of a fan of just not spending money. So one of my favorite examples of all times is the Danish team Betadorf, who made Force and a couple of other games afterwards, who actually managed to live in their university classroom for 7 months before getting discovered. There's this great story about where they tell what happened. I think it was like a #1 all-time Imgur image that was shared the most or something like that, but it's pretty inspiring. And then there's spaces like Gameport in Karlshamn, Sweden, that actually actively invite people like yourselves to come over and work there, and it's government funded, but of course then you would have to pay for the flight from the Philippines to there. So another very important thing, I'm happy to see that there's a pitch competition here at GMGC, is you always have to keep pitching. Pitch to everybody, pitch everywhere, pitch all the time. Have your 30-second elevator pitch, either if it's for yourself or if it's for your product, ready at all times. There's this amazing article that I keep recommending by, what was his name, James Altucher, about how to get an MBA from Eminem. Have you seen the 8 Mile movie with Eminem? Who's seen that? Okay, cool. So you might remember that scene. For the people who haven't seen it, there's this epic scene at the very end where pretty much Eminem just destroys this opponent in a rap battle. And it pretty much, if you deconstruct that scene, you actually kind of get a very interesting negotiation situation that you could have potentially with a publisher or an investor. What it comes down to is knowing who you are and who you aren't, what the other person wants and doesn't have, and how to disarm them. If you get any criticism, oh, you're just a 3-man team, you've just been working together for 3 years, have something that allows yourself to disarm those kind of arguments being used against you, and put the other individual in the defensive, and make yourself rare and scarce. Now, sadly, I don't have that much time, or else I would have shown you the video and deconstructed the pitch for, or the presentation for you. Anyways, embrace competition. I love this movie Rush, because it's the epitome of rivalry that I've recently seen in the cinemas. And there's this amazing quote from the character played by Michael Bruhl. That was my phone. By Michael Bruhl, where he says, a wise man can learn more from his enemies than a fool from his friends. And this is very true. I embrace competition. I love it when I see someone clone my game, because it makes me think, okay, did I protect my game enough to not be clonable that easily? Maybe I should try a different strategy. Support system, very important. Make sure that when you start a business, when you come together with your friends, that you are surrounded by the right kind of people. I personally have a therapist myself. I'm not sure what the situation here is in the Philippines in terms of healthcare, but I'm very fortunate to have that kind of support in the Netherlands as a Dutch citizen. Mentors and peers, friends, books. I listen to audiobooks a lot. I've lost the attention span of reading books, but I have about 35 gigs of audiobooks that I have with me. I'm currently on Harry Potter. Great stuff. I don't know, Snape kills Dumbledore is the only spoiler I've ever had, so the rest is all new to me. And of course, making sure that you have the right team. Don't let misfortune define you. This is super important. Can't repeat it often enough. I'm not sure if you guys know who this band is on the left, but it's the original Nirvana group. There's this gentleman called Jason Everman over there, the guy with the long hair. He got kicked out of Nirvana. Then he got kicked out of Soundgarden, which was also a very big 90s band back then. He ended up being a special forces hero, like Medal of Honor, everything, in Iraq. So he didn't let the fact that he got kicked out of two of the most legendary bands define him. So that's a very important lesson. It's a very cool article. I would definitely read it if you have the time. So that kind of got to the next point. Like, the number one skill that we all have as entrepreneurs is resilience. Like, you can kick us down as many times, but I think Rocky has taught us one important lesson, and that's just to keep going, right? Super Saiyans, right? They get stronger when they're near death. So the Finnish have this term. Let's be honest here. The Finnish have this term called sisu, which is perseverance, right? They're very proud people. They just celebrated the 100th year of their country's existence, and they kind of resisted the Russians back in the Second World War with pitchforks and hunting rifles, right? So that was pretty impressive, and that's the attitude that they still have till this day. So if you take that Finnish sisu that I've experienced with that Swedish commercial pragmatism, you get in a very interesting space. Sadly, I didn't manage to update the link here because I've been using, because they have a very bad, like the Swedish Game Association hasn't been able to share their game developer indexes so well the last years. So I'm just putting down the 2014 one that shows you how their industry is structured. But what I'm trying to say here is, if you look at, for example, this little thing, how Angry Birds got started, it was like their final, like Rovio's final step. Gunshine, who's ever heard of Gunshine? Yeah, there you go. That was Supercell's first game. It was a top-down, isometric, hardcore shooter on Facebook that totally failed. And then they did a startup turnaround, and they focused on like tablet first games, and that's what ended up creating like Heyday and Clash of Clans. So, in summary, get your agreements straight, get both legal and outside perspective as much as you can, embrace adversity, because that's what's going to make you grow, and the reality of running a business, because, yeah, like I said, like, you could never prepare. Like, what's the saying I always have? No one expects the Spanish Inquisition, right? Like, that's pretty much what it comes down to. Keep taking those punches. You will get there eventually. And just understand, like, this is the reality of entrepreneurship. For every win, there will be a punch, and you have to just keep going. So, more importantly, I think most importantly, you all are here. That's the first step. Talk with each other about failure, about adversity, and trust each other with those stories as much as you can, and fully foster your community of peers. Like, you guys are each other's most valuable asset here right now to grow together. I've got other talks on my YouTube channel, and you can contact me with any questions or just bother me during the event. I'm here at your service for the rest of this event, so yeah, if you have any questions, you'll find me outside. So thank you for your time. Yay!
Thank you. Vlad, ladies and gentlemen. We'll have to bleep a lot of that video before we upload it to YouTube.
I think I'll have to edit out half or something, but it'll be fine.